Welcome everybody to the Satisfactionist live stream. Coming at you this evening, late in the East Coast. It's a little past midnight, but I wanted to put this out here real quick. So earlier this week, had a opportunity to do a talk with a group of folks that I was asked to, kind of step in and do this talk, and it was around delegation. And I had recorded this earlier. There was some, I wanted to do a shorter version of it. So what I'm going to be doing now is the short version of my talk around delegation. Hope you enjoy it. Thanks much for the folks who saw it the first time. Give me some good comments. I appreciate that. Looking to do and provide really some more content as we move ahead. So I'm really looking forward to doing that and doing more, and hoping to see some things evolve here in the next couple weeks. I'll keep you guys posted on that. But until then, let's go ahead and dive into the world of delegation. And I am going to be over here in the upper left-hand corner. Here I am. Hello, everybody. And let's dive right in. So delegation, let's get to it. So why do we delegate? In organizations, we delegate for a variety of reasons. Most of the reasons why is because it improves our efficiency. It helps to develop skills. It improves the strength of our bench in the workplace. Those people who are doing work and contributing to the organization are going to grow in their own careers. It shows a high level of trust from an organizer, from a manager, from the organization standpoint, because you're entrusting folks with some new tasks and some work stretches that are going to help them get better at things. It improves team performance, and then most of all, it improves us as managers and leaders. It helps to improve our own skills by teaching us how to give away some things. As managers, oftentimes we get elevated into positions because we're good at what we do, and we sometimes have a little bit of a challenge handing things off to other people, right? So delegation helps in that regard. Some of the misconceptions around delegation, though, are that it tends to divert responsibility from ourselves. We give something to someone else, they either get credit for it, or even worse, it reflects poorly on us. Sometimes we tend to think about delegation as only going to our top performers. We don't necessarily want to only delegate to the people who are, top in class in the organization, because there are many times hidden talents amongst folks who aren't necessarily top performers. And so you never know when you're missing the opportunity to tap in to somebody who has some good things to contribute. We shouldn't also just give, small tasks. Let's also trust people in doing some of the bigger things at work. Because those things help to develop skills. At some time or another, we've all failed in the workplace. And so it's really important for us to allow other people to fail, right? And it's failure we shouldn't view as this negative, terrible, bad thing. There is a good avenue to failure. And so we want to make sure that if we fail, we kind of fail up, but we also coach and we help and we develop people along those failures. Oftentimes when we think about folks failing in the workplace, it's this feeling of, well, it's not you, but really, it's me. But in actuality, I kind of mean that it's you. And that's our own selves, not necessarily taking the opportunity to trust other people. And so we're going to hammer in on that thing, because I often talk about business as having four core elements, four very important things that all businesses should do. Have good levels of trust, communication, processes, and routines. We're going to dive into that and tie all that into delegation. So when we look at trust, I kind of break that down as an acronym, right? Trust meaning transparency, being relationship driven, being universally appreciated, having a sustainability focus, and also it being a two-way street. There's a great book out by Patrick Lencioni. He talks about the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And in that book, he talks about trust being the foundation of really, healthy organizations and healthy work groups. If you don't have trust, you then can evolve into fears of conflict. People don't want to speak up and they don't want to speak out because they don't feel that there's going to be a level of trust there within their leadership that's going to respect and hear their voice. From that, you can lead into a lack of commitment. If I'm not going to be heard and I'm not going to be paid attention to when I speak up, how do I know that anything that I do is going to be important in this organization? That could then lead to an avoidance of accountability, where we're not necessarily even looking at the things that we're doing anymore with any sense of ownership or any sense of pride, and ultimately that leads to an inattention of results. So trust is the primary foundation to making all of this stuff work. And so when we think about trust is really the variable that contextualizes communication. Trust and communication are very equal, and in that regard, what we mean is that we got to keep those things in balance. We have to show a good level of trust, and in doing that, we need to communicate in ways that build that trust. These two things are almost kind of symbiotic. They can't exist alone. They have to exist with each other, and not necessarily having one without the other. So as we drive into trust and we think about that acronym, right? Communicating with transparency, it means being vulnerable, being open, being honest and real with the people around you, owning the misunderstandings that could occur in the workplace, and also not keeping people in the dark, not feeding them a bunch of bull, right? In other words, not growing mushrooms. We also think about communicating to build relationships. Relationships are built with reciprocity and rapport. Rapport is, building a friendly, harmonious relationship characterized by mutual understanding and empathy. If we don't have that in our communication, we're not building good, solid relationships with folks. There's been research done around trust. Trust in negotiation situations is one of the most important elements of building rapport. You can't build rapport without trust. And it also shows up in things like reliability, interpersonality, integrity, and altruism. When we think about, it being a universal language, right? It's about collaborating. And this handsome young gentleman here, Alan Page Fisk, he is a professor of psychological anthropology. What that means is he studies cultures and he studies the way that people communicate. And when you look at the way that people communicate, he's really kind of found these 4 universal relationship types that occur across the world, right? So all cultures, all different types of organizations tend to have these fundamental relationships. I want you to focus on this first one. We're going to go through them all. Communal relationship. A communal relationship is building a bond together. It's a collective identity. When you look at the authoritative relationship, it's often characterized by formal distinctions of status and power. While we do have those in organizations, we also want to kind of limit the amount of status and power that we have in building good, trusting relationships. It's very hard to build a trusting relationship when you're saying, yes, but I am also the authority over you, right? So we want to make sure that while we're focusing on communal relationships, and there does have to be an authoritative relationship, that we are also putting more emphasis on that communal building. The other type of environment relationships that can exist in these environments are equality matching, where we're kind of seeing everybody as the same. In a workplace environment, that's a little bit difficult because everybody has different roles and responsibilities. Folks with higher titles and higher pay tend to have more responsibility, tend to have more things that they're accountable for. So to go into it saying that we are somehow all the same, it's not necessarily true. And it's really kind of sets a really false foundation with the folks that you're trying to work with. So the last here being a market relationship, and that's really being driven by an exchange of goods or payments or favors, and that's probably not the best way to build trust in an organization and with your coworkers as well. So thinking about how to build that relationship, we want to communicate with sustainability, meaning that we don't want to go for short-term gains. We want to go for long-lasting relationships. We want to build for the long term. So don't necessarily communicate in such a way that's only going to be viewed as, you're getting your thing and they're maybe not getting theirs. You want to look at doing more of the yes and fewer of the yeah but. Yes and is a building mechanism. It's used in improv all the time. Somebody starts out with a line, somebody builds on it with a yes and. The moment you start with the yeah buts, it shuts down the conversation. It's saying that, look, I hear what you're saying, but I'm not going to accept what you're saying. So you want to do a little bit more of the yes and, less of the yeah but, and also value the contributions that you're getting. Everybody has the opportunity to be heard. Ultimately, there is one person who has to make the decision to go forward, but you should always at least take in the contributions that you're getting. When I think about the last T as part of the trust acronym, it being a two-way street, I think of flow, right? Things have to flow back and forth amongst each other. And when I think of flow, I think of this quote by Bruce Lee, which talks about water being shapeless and formless. When you put it into a cup, it takes the shape of a cup. When you put it into a bottle, it takes the shape of a bottle. Water can be in a teapot, and it takes the shape of a teapot. It can either crash or it can drip. So you want to be like water. And when we think about that, the flow of communication, and this is comes from a communication model that is actually part of communication studies. If you've been in business school or communication studies, this is probably something that's familiar to you. And in positive psychology, when we talk about flow, we think of the Hungarian psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, and he talks about flow being that a mental state where one is fully immersed and fully engaged in what they're doing. When we think about flow as a conversation means and communication means in the workplace, we got to think about how our audience is receiving and decoding and using the information that we're communicating with. We not only communicate with our words, we communicate with our expressions, with our gestures, with our looks. All of those things communicate. All of those things are being heard, they're being decoded, they're being transformed, and then repeated back to us. When we listen, right? There's this old adage, God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, because we should listen twice as much as we're speaking. So as we're speaking, take pause, listen to the feedback that people are giving you. Listen to learn, don't listen to confirm. Make sure that the feedback and the information that you're getting back to you is something that is understood across both parties, right? Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is build loyalty and sustainability, not just satisfaction. So when we move on to kind of the processes and routines and how these things come together, processes are the actions that are used to help achieve a goal, while routines are the sequences that are followed and are kind of a fixed set of rules, right? So if we're going to be moving ahead with processes and routines, processes ensure that things get done. Routines ensure that they get done the same way each time. And you think about it, processes, when they're broken, the routines can't necessarily exist. And the reason they can't exist is because when work is taking too long, there's no clear understanding of things, when there's too many reviews and sign-offs, it's a sign that processes are broken, right? There's more exceptions that are happening. There's no clear set rules, and oftentimes people tend to point blame. All of that is a sign that the processes within the organization have weakness to them. And those weaknesses don't allow you to create the solid types of routines that are necessary to constantly deliver. And why that is really important is because when we start conversations with trust, it helps to win the hearts and the minds of the people. That allows us to communicate in ways that help to enlighten and bring people around to listen to us a little bit more. And from that listening, it helps to focus on the goals and expectations that we have. Those expectations can be better defined and refined through processes. When we have good processes, those processes help to kind of water and nurture those routines, water and nurture things so that we can then emerge into routines. And the routines are what create the predictable result, right? If we plant a sunflower seed and we do all the right things and have the right routines down, it's going to blossom into a sunflower seed. It's not going to blossom into something other than that, right? So all of those things, the processes and routines, help to establish what we expect to see. And from that, we can have great delegation. Delegation is there when there is a strong level of trust, when communication is frequent, when it's transparent, and it's well understood. We can have positive workplace cultures that are focused on long-term sustainability, and that helps us to be more clear and less ambiguous about the work that we're doing. When you have routines that are in place, that are documented and not assumed, it ensures that everybody knows what they're doing, how they're doing, and when to get things done. And both processes and routines have to be measured, and measured in the eyes of what the consumer wants and not necessarily measured in the eyes of what the organization is currently capable of doing. And when you can get all of that stuff done, when you can create those positive routines and processes, that is when you can have a great organization uh, full of ample opportunities to delegate. All right, folks, that is my time. I appreciate you guys checking in. Thanks for this. Thanks for watching this video. If you guys enjoy it, please like, share. That is always welcome. And gonna be back soon with some more stuff, some more people, and some more interesting topics, hopefully, that are going to help to give you a little bit more to think about as we are all under these unusual COVID times, but looking for, I don't know, a little something more entertaining than just the news all day. All right, folks, thanks much. I appreciate it. Have a good one. I will catch you later.